A star-studded episode in today's episode of Locked On Devils as I discuss all things All-Star Game, ranging from the uniforms to Nico Hischier being left off the team. We have a lot to discuss in today's episode. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credentialed media member, Trey Matthews. So like I said in the cold open, it is going to be a star-studded episode because I'm going to talk all things All-Star Game, mostly Nico Hischier being snubbed from the All-Star team. But let's start off with my reactions to the jerseys. So the uniforms were recently released by the NHL. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, for the Eastern jersey, it's a black jersey with pink, light blue, and also white. And then for the Western part, it's mostly a white jersey with the same type of secondary colors. So this time it's black, pink, and light blue being at the bottom instead of white. So my overall thing is simply this. Obviously, the All-Star Game takes place in South Florida, and the big culture down in Florida is Miami Vice. That's an old TV show, and you see the Miami Heat rock those kind of uniforms. So like Miami Vice kind of colorways, or for GTA when their game took place in Miami, they also rock sort of like a Miami Vice kind of colorway. So I love the jerseys, quite honestly. I personally think that the Eastern jersey is better than the Western one because I think the black complements the secondary color so well. I think it makes it pop just a little bit more. So that's my personal opinion. I prefer the Eastern jersey, but that could be subjective. So overall, I really like the uniforms. It fits the Florida culture really well. I think they're going to look really good on the rink. So my overall thing for the uniforms, A+ to whoever who designed them. So once again, love the uniforms. And I think this is a great combination between hockey, Miami Vice, and the Florida culture in general. So that's my overall reaction to the uniforms. Now, let's talk about the All-Star fan vote because it was recently revealed who got the final spots for the All-Star team. So in the Metropolitan Division, you got Panarin, Fox, and Sorokin. So those are going to be the final three players to join alongside Jack Hughes, Goodrow, Crosby, and others from the Metro. So yeah, Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt were left off the list. Now, here's the thing. My overall reactions to the fan vote is like, I don't know how much of a say the fans actually get. So what do I mean by that? Well, out in the NBA, they obviously do let the fans vote in the starters. However, fans only have half the vote. The other half goes to the media, front office, and also the players. So that way you don't get a certain player who plays for like a big franchise. So someone like Austin Reeves, I don't know if anyone knows anything about basketball, but me as a Lakers fan, Austin Reeves is a pretty decent player, but he plays for such a well-known franchise in the Los Angeles Lakers. So he's obviously in the top 10 for the All-Star fan voting. And that's a little unfair to some players who play for small market teams, and they're not really given that sort of backbone of support. So I don't know how much of a say the fans actually do have, but if they have 100% of the say, it's kind of unfair for players of the New Jersey Devils because here's the thing. New York is a way bigger market than Newark, New Jersey. And I'm sorry, but that's just an overall fact. So the New Jersey Devils are a small market team. So I feel as though despite their success this year, they're still not being given the credit that they deserve. And it obviously shows when it comes to the All-Star voting. Now, here's the thing for Jesper Bratt. The reason why I did an episode centered around making a case for him to make the All-Star game is because I thought, maybe there's a slim chance that he can make the All-Star team. I did say that it was unlikely, despite Jesper Bratt having a huge fan base on Twitter, mostly thanks to the Bratt Pack. But I just said that for Jesper Bratt, he would have to rely too much on the advanced analytics, and he was kind of a streaky player in December. And if he had the same amount of success that he did early on in the year, he gets in, no doubt. But Jesper Bratt has slowed down. He started to pick it up, so I'm going to give credit where credit is due. But I just said it was unlikely for Jesper Bratt to make the All-Star team. But I was more than certain that Nico Hischier was going to solidify himself into the All-Star game. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are probably wondering, Trey, why do you care so much? It's the All-Star game for the NHL. No one really watches it. No one really cares for it all that much. I don't think it's the most televised thing that the NHL puts on. And plus, it gives Nico Hischier and others a chance to rest for the weekend. And it's probably perfect for someone like Jack Hughes, because Jack Hughes seems to have unlimited amount of stamina. But from my personal preference, it's just the principle, because the Devils are doing so well. But yet there's this false narrative going around town saying that it's the Jack Hughes show. So what do I mean by that is, like, it's the Jack Hughes band and it's like Alvin and Chipmunks. So it's like Jack Hughes and the Chipmunks, or it's like Michael Jackson and the four other dudes, or something like that. It's not just a one-man show. And Jack Hughes, he does deserve his roses, but I think Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Ryan Graves, Tomas Tatar, everyone deserves more credit toward the success for the New Jersey Devils, especially for Nico Hischier. And I think Nico Hischier should be joining Jack Hughes in South Florida for the All-Star game. I get that no one really cares for it all that much. I don't know how many people actually watch it, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of principle for me. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'll explain what I mean momentarily. But first, I wanted to tell you guys a product that I use literally every day. So I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted to be happier. I wanted to be healthier. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all those things. So I started taking AG1 because I wanted to be happier. I wanted to be healthier. My body's a temple, so I got to start treating it as such. So its lifestyle is friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing that's best about Athletic Greens is that it uses best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out after your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. You can also catch Athletic Greens on a NASCAR car come next season for calling racing. And now I want you guys to make some extra cash. So head over to betonline.net. It's your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup, they've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest, easy way to get all your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please remember to gamble responsibly and visit our friends at Locked On Bets for all your betting needs there as well. Okay, so when looking at the final fan vote, at least in the Metropolitan Division, I'm not going to argue against Sorokin because Sorokin deserves it 100%. He deserves his bid to the All-Star game. But for Panarin and Fox, I don't know. I just ponder and I scratch my head. So like I said moments ago, Jesper Bratt, his chances of making the All-Star team was very unlikely. There was still a slim chance because I just thought with the huge following of the Bratt pack, I thought that Jesper Bratt kind of did have somewhat of a chance, but overall his stats, you would just have to rely too much on the advanced analytics. But for Nico Hischier, I just think that he deserves it a lot more. He deserves a lot more credit in general of what he's been doing this season for New Jersey Devils. So my thing is simply this, is like, look, when you're looking at New York, it's a big market team. And I think it kind of just diminishes what the Devils are capable of doing. But the Devils, unfortunately, are a small market team. So my overall thing for Nico Hischier is simply this, which is Nico Hischier was the leader for the Devils, not just throughout the entirety of the season, but during their most crucial part of the season when they went on that 13-game win streak. So I'll explain what I mean by that momentarily. But I just want to talk about this false narrative that's been going around town. Because when looking at the top 100 NHL players put out by The Athletic, they split it into 4 tiers. They have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. So tier 1 is MVP, tier 2 is franchise, tier 3 is all-star, and tier 4 is top line. and they split it into 3 parts per tier. So there's 1A, 1B, 1C for tier 1. So Jack Hughes is in tier 2, 2A, and basically they say he's a fringe between MVP and franchise player. I think Jack Hughes deserves to be in the tier 1 category for MVP, because if it wasn't for Connor McDavid, I honestly legitimately think to the core of my being that Jack Hughes will be the front runner to win the Hart Memorial Trophy, because he's having a Taylor Hall type of season in which he is playing lights out and he's leading a team back to the playoffs, a team that had no anticipation of any playoff hopes throughout the entirety of the NHL. Fans, scouts, whatever the case might be, people were writing off the New Jersey Devils, and Jack Hughes has been able to silence a lot of the haters, and he's playing like the reason why we drafted him first overall just a few years ago. So I think Jack Hughes should be in the MVP category. And then they have Nico Hischier in tier 3, 3A, so a fringe between all-star and franchise piece. Well, I think Nico Hischier, being our captain, I think he deserves to be in tier number 2 for franchise. And then they got Jesper Bratt for 4A top line. I think that's a little more justifiable because, like I said, I don't know if Jesper Bratt is quite yet an all-star. He's close, but he needs to be more consistent. But I've already touched on that enough. But overall, look, Jack Hughes deserves his roses. And like I just said, he should be one of the top 5 front runners for the Hart Memorial Trophy race. If he isn't already, it's unfortunate that he's got that 2-headed monster in Edmonton to worry about. So he's got to worry about Connor McDavid, who's probably going to win it with ease, and then Leon Draisaitl, who isn't that far behind Connor McDavid. So my overall thing for this false narrative is that it's not just the Jack Hughes show. You got people like Ryan Graves, who's leading the team in plus minus. So Ryan Graves has a plus minus of plus 29. Trailing him is Tomas Tatar with a plus minus of plus 26. And then Jonas Siegenthaler with a plus minus of plus 23. Why don't we ever talk about that? Or Dougie Hamilton. Look, Dougie Hamilton makes me want to rip my hair out when it comes to defense. But he is very good on the offensive side of things, and he has stepped up his game. So, and he has come back from that facial fracture with ease. So I think Dougie Hamilton deserves a lot more credit. Jesper Bratt, he has taken leaps and bounds. He bet on himself during the course of the offseason, and right now it's panning out. So he wants to be locked up long-term. He wants to make the same amount of money that Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier are making. But I think the biggest snub in all this is Nico Hischier, because Nico Hischier has been arguably one of the best players for New Jersey Devils. Now, here's my thing. Here's my argument as to why Nico Hischier should be an all-star. So I said early on in the episode that Nico Hischier was the one leading the New Jersey Devils during their 13-game win streak. And here's why I say this, because when did we start to see the rise of Jack Hughes this season? Like, when did we see his numbers just take 2 steps forward? When did we see Jack Hughes become this Hart Memorial Trophy kind of candidate? It was in late November when he got his hat trick against the Washington Capitals on November 26th. That's when I felt as though Jack Hughes really stepped up his game, because for the first part of the year, we were talking about Jesper Bratt, because Jesper Bratt went on that 11-game point streak, broke the franchise record to open up the year. But then when the Devils started to win more games, it was Nico Hischier stepping up his game. So when I brought in Jersey Joe, when I brought in Christy Flannery, when I brought in Ryan Ovacinski, I asked him, who is your MVP for the New Jersey Devils? It's Nico Hischier. So look, it's not just the Jack Hughes show. Nico Hischier has stepped up big time for the New Jersey Devils, and I think he deserves more credit and more respect, because this season for Nico Hischier, he has appeared in 44 games. He has 21 goals, 23 assists for a grand total of 44 points, and he has a plus minus of plus 19. And also, the one thing that we've been talking about for Nico Hischier is that he comes up clutch. You need proof? Who's leading the team in game-winning goals? It's Nico Hischier with 5. So my thing is simply this. Nico Hischier deserves a lot more respect. And he has been the MVP for New Jersey Devils prior to Jack Hughes going on that monstrous run during the month of December and carrying over to January. So Jack Hughes deserves a lot of credit. And as you guys know, I am a big fan of Jack Hughes. I'm a big fan of his overall game. But I think people are starting to forget about what Nico Hischier brings to the team. He's our captain. He's our leader. He was the one leading the charge during the 13-game win streak, because the thing about Jack Hughes during that 13-game win streak is simply this, is that Jack Hughes was good. Don't get me wrong. He was still a point-per-game player or hovering around that vicinity. But the thing is, like, there was a lot of discussion, like, early on during that win streak as to whether or not Jack Hughes is, like, aggressive or not. Because to start out the season, we were just talking about Jack Hughes needs to be more selfish. He needs to shoot more. He needs to, like, get back to creating for himself and others, because sometimes Jack Hughes would put up a few points here and there. He would get a couple assists, but sometimes he would go with zeros on the board. And we were just talking about, like, look, Jack Hughes is playing good. But for his standards, we know he can be better. And that was the overall discussion for Jack Hughes. It seems like people forgot that overall discussion, which is Jack Hughes during the beginning of the year, he was struggling for his standards. I'm not saying he was struggling, period. I'm just saying for his standards, for our expectations, we did expect a little bit more from Jack Hughes, because who was putting up those monstrous points to begin the year? It was Jesper Bratt. We expected for maybe someone like Jack Hughes to break the franchise record for longest point streak to open up the season. Or when Nico Hischier was just stepping up big for the Devils, because the example that I use is that OT win when we first played the Ottawa Senators. It was Nico Hischier who scored like 2 goals that game, and one of them was the game-winning goal in OT that solidified the Devils the victory. Albeit he had some help from Dougie Hamilton, but still, that was one of my favorite games to watch during the course of the year because of what it meant. And Nico Hischier was also on a little bit of a point streak or a goal streak or something like that. Nico Hischier also had a streak himself that I think a lot of people forget. So my thing is simply this. Here's why I care so much about Nico Hischier being snubbed for the All-Star team, or why I think that fans shouldn't get like that much say when it comes to the voting. Because Nico Hischier playing for a small market team, it seems like they're only going to tout one player. And that obviously is going to be Jack Hughes, because he has a hot hand and he deserves a lot of credit. But the thing is like during that 13-game win streak, I think any Devils fans can attest to this. It was Nico Hischier who was at the front of the line. So my thing is, like, even if you don't want to put Jesper Bratt into the All-Star game, even if you don't want to put Vitek Vanecek or Dougie Hamilton in the All-Star game, that's a little more understandable, because for Vitek Vanecek, unfortunately, he was a little bit better early on in the season than he was now. So Vitek Vanecek, his chances of making the All-Star team was already very unlikely. I remember we were having a discussion as to whether or not he could possibly win the Vezina Trophy. I said there's zero chance, because it would probably be the most out of left field winner in recent memory. And for Dougie Hamilton, it's just like, yeah, he's good when it comes to offense, but defense, he makes me want to rip my hair out, because he just makes a lot of dumb mistakes, similar to Damon Severson. And then for Jesper Bratt, like I said, a little too streaky. But for Nico Hischier, he's been consistent. He's been clutch. He's been stepping up in big moments for the New Jersey Devils. In our latest game against the Seattle Kraken, who was the one who got the game-tying goal when there was like a minute left in the game? Devils pulled Mackenzie Blackwood from the game to get the extra attacker. It was Nico Hischier. He just stands in the right place at the right time. He creates for himself. He creates for his teammates. And that was one of the things that I was raving about during the course of the win streak, because Nico Hischier would play unselfish out there. So my thing is, like, Nico Hischier deserved that bid, quite honestly. I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, but I believe to the core of my being that Nico Hischier should be joining Jack Hughes in South Florida. Now, I'm sure it's a blessing in disguise, because, like I said, no one really cares about the NHL All-Star game, if I'm being completely honest, at least with people I've talked to. But, and honestly, I'm going to watch it because I find it quite entertaining, and I want to see what Jack Hughes does. But I get that it's not the most exciting thing when fans look at the schedule. But my thing is, it's just a matter of principle of how well the Devils have done. Now, just coming from an outside perspective, when looking at Panarin and also Fox, it's just like, look, I'm not trying to discredit them in any which sort of way, but I just think that given how well the Devils have done this season, given the narrative that was surrounded with their team, given the fact that they actually had one of their biggest victories against the New York Rangers of the season early on this month, I think you could really make a case as to why maybe you shouldn't have multiple Rangers players in the All-Star game. Maybe it should be the New Jersey Devils, because the Devils are still one of the top teams in the Metro. And given what's going on in Carolina right now, I think the Devils can reclaim first in the Metro. So it just doesn't make sense that one of the top teams in the NHL they're back. Trust me, the Devils are back to being more consistent now. I can feel it. Given how well the Devils have done this season, given the fact that they have the 5th longest win streak in NHL history, given the fact that everyone doubted them, given the fact that they weren't even supposed to be in this position, given the fact that Jack Hughes didn't really start to put up the big numbers that we're seeing right now until late November, I think it really doesn't make any sense as to why the Devils don't have multiple all-star representatives. Why is it just Jack Hughes? Why is it just the Jack Hughes show? And Jack Hughes deserves his roses. He deserves all the credit. And I'm not trying to take that away from him, but it's not just Jack Hughes. Like I said early on in the episode, there's more to this puzzle. So that's what I want to take away from. That's my overall argument for Nico Hischier and others. So for Nico Hischier, all-star bid. For others, more credit where credit is deserved. So let me know what you guys think when it comes to the All-Star game. Are you actually going to watch it? What do you think about the Devils only having Jack Hughes as a representative? Do you think Nico Hischier was snubbed? Because personally, I think he was snubbed if you hadn't guessed already. So that's my overall thing, and I get it. The Rangers are just in New York. It's a much bigger market compared to Newark, New Jersey, and unfortunately, that's the realism of just playing in Newark, which is the Devils just aren't going to be given that same amount of attention. They're not going to be given that same amount of credit compared to some of those New York teams, Boston, Philadelphia. When it comes to East Coast, New Jersey, unfortunately, gets the short end of the stick. So curious to hear guys' thoughts. So leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on a podcast streaming service. Hit me up on my personal Twitter page at TreyMatt4 or the show's Twitter page at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again. There's some big trade talks happening within the organization. Can the Devils afford to possibly trade for a big-name player and also re-sign Jesper Bratt long-term? Well, stay tuned because there's going to be a lot of discussion as we inch closer to the trade deadline as the season is more than halfway done.